Well, good evening, everybody. Very warm welcome to our AGM. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. My name is Carol Mills. I'm currently the chair of the Trust, and it's lovely to see you all here. We're going to be focusing on what we've done for the 12 months up to the 30th of November 2024. So it'll sound a little bit strange at times because here we are well into June, but that's the way that it works this evening. So I'm just going to run through how it's going to work. So we have the formal business between now and 8 o'clock, and we'll have a break at 8 o'clock for tea, coffee, and for you to have a look at our shop at the back. And then we've got a presentation from John O'Oates, who I did see earlier. Hello and welcome, great that you're here. And he'll be doing a presentation on Victorian Lichfield between 8:15 and 8:45 or thereabouts. So I hope you'll enjoy the evening. There are going to be a number of items on which to vote. Now, everybody's welcome to our AGM, but you can only vote if you're a member. So a trustee will propose an item. It will then be seconded, and then I'll ask for a show of hands. And if you're in agreement, if you could just put your hands in the air. And we won't be counting how many unless there's a split vote on something. But we're not expecting anything too controversial this evening, so we'll see. That wasn't a challenge, by the way, so don't feel that you've got to do that. So, are there any apologies this evening that haven't already been submitted? Tony Cadwallader, thank you. Any others from the floor? Okay, we've had apologies from Councillor Kerry Murphy, Councillor Alex Farrell, Robbie Cumming, Chris Bull, Sarah Mallet, John and Marion Pearce, Frank and Joy Wheatman, Chris Coburn, Sir David and Lady Sheila Suchet. Can I now draw your attention to the minutes of last year's AGM, which were emailed around to you? Are there any errors, omissions or amendments that we need to make? So can we take those as an accurate record of that meeting for those of us that were there? Thank you very much. And are there any matters arising? No. So far, so good. So now I want to move on to my report. And our trustees are going to go into some of the details. So I just want to give you a bit of an overview, really, of where we are. First of all, I hope you've got a copy of your annual report, our glossy brochure that we do every year now. And I just want to thank Christine Howells, our wonderful comms and marketing trustee, and other things besides, for her work on this. Again, it's a very professional looking document. Thank you very much, Christine. And I do want to thank Paul Marshall as well, who's stepped in as our technical coordinator this evening, who's helping with all the broadcasting and so forth, and the microphones. So that's really great. Thank you. I do also want to thank our wonderful volunteers. The amount of work that people put in their spare time, either on the front line or behind the scenes, is just phenomenal. We've got 155 active volunteers, and they've recorded something like 17,500 hours. And we know people do more than that because not everybody fills in the timesheet. So I think that's pretty impressive. So thank you very much for the volunteers that are in the room. Excuse me. And thanks also to you as members and the other 2,500 that we've got, both in the UK and abroad, for the invaluable support. And I did also want to thank you very much for embracing the first increase to subscriptions that we'd had since 1988. That's really helped us with our income, and the response has been really positive. So thank you very much. We really do appreciate that. So let's move on to a reminder about why we do this. Why do we spend so much time on the canals? We are trying to restore both the Lichfield and the Hatherton canals and establish a navigable gateway to the BCN. That's going to take us some time. So meanwhile, we also want to create and maintain a beautiful green and blue corridor for our local communities to enjoy. And that's communities in its widest sense. Anybody is welcome to come and see our wonderful canals. Walkers, wheelers, cyclists, young kids, dog walkers, whatever. It's really important that people come along and see what we're doing and enjoy the walk. We're also keen on making sure that we've got wildlife habitats and biodiversity. So we put a lot of effort into thinking about what we plant and what we do and what we create. And there's also economic benefits, through tourism and inward investment and the millions of pounds that grants can attract into the area. And we also provide a lot of training and skills opportunities for our volunteers, from young people to older people and everything in between. And being outdoors or behind the scenes, doing something for your community, is also very good for our mental health and well-being too. So lots of benefits through being involved. Now, in this last year or two, we have focused on the Lichfield Canal. And our 2023-24 operational plan made that very clear, that we wanted to work really hard on this one part of the canal and get as much of it into water as we can, as soon as we possibly can. And to do that logically and progressively and work out from Borrowcott Locks Canal Park and the Darnford Moors Ecology Park, ultimately securing a connection at Huddlesford Junction. And we are making progress towards that. So that's including completing the Lichfield Canal in isolation, because we're going to have to wait until HS2 have done the work that they need on the diversion, but we will carry on and do what we can, ready to be able to connect that, and making sure that we get the necessary planning and technical consents for A38 Canal Crossing and Darnford Lane, in addition to the Cappers Lane diversion. And we're applying to Highways England for some designated funds for the design and construction of that A38 crossing. So we are getting on with that. So, how do you eat an elephant? Have you heard that saying? One bite at a time. So, if you think about the canal and building one, restoring one, that's quite an undertaking. And so we have to break that down into bite-sized chunks to make it achievable. So what we do is we have an operational plan to do that. So if you think about it, we need funding, enormous volunteer effort, we need leadership, we need planning, we need vehicles, we need plant, we need tools, we need equipment, materials, technical expertise, some of you in the room and certainly my colleagues here at the table, and dedication, and then all the strategies, policies, plans, rules, regulations behind it to make it happen. It's a huge undertaking. We might be a small organisation, but we're still required to do all the things that the law requires us to do, and we have to do that in our spare time. So that's where the operational plans come in. We started these in 2023, and each one spans 2 years. And that helps us to prioritise and focus on exactly what we're going to do, in what order, for the next 24 months. And that helps us to make more tangible progress. So rather than scatter our efforts over a large area, doing lots of multiple different projects, we get all our volunteers focusing on 1, 2 or 3 things. And that's what we've been doing. So if you look at Darnford Moors Ecology Park, we focused on that. That's now open, it's well visited, it's beautiful, we're having loads of wildlife visits, and I'll let my colleagues talk about later. We're currently working down at Tamworth Road, and we're putting together planning applications for St John's and Falkland Road. So whilst we're working on the section now, we've always got a weather eye to what comes next. So we've got this pipeline of activity so that we don't have downtime in between the different projects. So this was our operational plan for 23-24. I'm not going to go through all the bits of it, but there are 82 actions in it, which is a high number. And each one of those actions is assigned to one or more of the trustees or officers to make sure that we've got clear accountability. But the board, that's us here, we retain overall responsibility for making that happen. And from that plan, there were only 8, so less than 10%, where we didn't make any progress at all. And that was entirely due to external issues or external bodies or organisations that were beyond our control. All the things that we could have influence over ourselves and control over ourselves, we made a start on. And many of them, 72% in fact, were fully or mostly achieved. Now, as an entirely volunteer-led outfit, I think we should feel quite proud of that, because that's a really massive achievement. And I've just broken down there for you in the table, for people who like tables, exactly what that looks like. And so we're now, as we stand here, well into 2025-26, and that plan went live in January this year. And this year we have 100 actions allocated to trustees and officers. But our priorities remain the same. We're focusing on the Lichfield Canal for the next 2 years. Our priority sites remain Darnford Moors, Tamworth Road East, Tamworth Road West to Cricket Lane, St John's, Falkland Road and Darnford Park. And the focus of activity now, you'll have seen if you've been out and about in Lichfield, is very much on that Tamworth Road section. We've got phases 1 and phase 2, and the teams are working very hard down there. And behind the scenes, we have people like Derek and others working on the planning applications and the technical requirements that we need for the next phase at St John's, just to give you an idea of how it all fits together. So as we stand here today, of the 7.25 miles of canal that is the Lichfield Canal, 40% is either complete or under construction. Now that's a figure most people are not aware of. Too many people say to me, do you know, this is never going to happen in my lifetime. Well, yes, it will, because we're making great progress so far, and we've got more to come and really ambitious plans. So more details will be covered in the updates from my colleagues in a moment. But before I hand over, I just want to mention that this year we had a new innovation, and we have 4 ambassadors that have joined us. These are people in the public eye who help us to raise our profile in new areas, speak positively about us, amplify some of our social media, talk to decision makers and influencers to help us get more income, more members, more volunteers. And we've had Steve Court, Carl Nibb, Joss Musgrove Nibb and Roy McFarlane, who are very influential and have been really helpful to us through the Big Give campaign recently. And there's more details about them in the annual report. So thank you very much to them. And just a little bit of admin. We have changed our registered office. Previously, it was based quite a long way away at IWA HQ. And we found that people were finding that confusing. Why is a Lichfield charity listed so far away? So we decided that it would be better to have a local address for our local charity. And I'm pleased to say that that's being hosted by Danes Accountants, based in Lichfield. So our new registered office address is at St John's Court in Wiltell Road. And that helps us to have official post, but it's also our registered address. So you'll see that change being affected in all our publications from now on. So could I ask somebody to propose and second my report?
Yes, I propose that we receive Carol's very detailed report.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody going to second that?
And I second that proposal.
Thank you. Could I have a show of hands for those in favour, please? That's a relief. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Can I just say, before you close, Carol,
yeah.
We're very grateful to you for what you've done in the last 12 months. I think today's presentation, you've pointed out all the various facets, and the people that all the way it's constructed now is absolutely, it amazes me to see how it developed.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for what you put forward. Your presentation today was absolutely wonderful, and I like to see how the way you've involved the new people coming in as well. Thank you for what you do.
Oh, bless you. That's really kind of you. But we've got more to come. And it's a team effort, you know. Yeah. You only get things through great team effort, and we're blessed with having a fab team. And the first member of that fabulous team is Chris Bailey, who's going to join us now. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. The first thing I would like to do is to personally thank all the people that have volunteered for the Trust over that 12-month period. We are extremely grateful for your time and efforts. I'm reporting my first year as a trustee, and for me it's been a very, very busy year, I have to say. Currently we've got 3.5 kilometres of canal completed or under active construction, and we've got nearly 1 kilometre of canal in water. We've built 130 metres of waterway wall and 140 metres of retaining wall. We've excavated and taken away 3,000 cubic metres of spoil from site, and we've installed 68 metres of piling and laid 70 cubic metres of concrete to the canal bed. We mustn't forget that we also filled 84 gabion cages with nearly 200 tonnes of bricks and rubble as to act as retaining walls. I know it's 2025, but I can't stand here and not say that we've removed some of the big pipe. The big pipe was put in the 1950s as the canal was filled in, and has been there since 1950. And in 2025, we removed some sections of it. So that was a great hurrah for us. A couple of guys who stepped down as site leaders, Tony and Hugh. I see Hugh's here tonight. How was the Lhcrt? Good. Personal thanks goes to Tony and Hugh for taking me on board and showing me the ropes. And Tony's still with us. He's not very well tonight, that's why he's not here. But he's still with us as our purchasing officer. And Hugh is still communicating and coming on site to talk to us. So it is with great thanks that, for all your efforts, guys. Thank you. Stepping up to team leader roles for the next year will be Dave Gittins, Adrian Sturgis and Brian Williams. So I'm grateful for those guys for stepping up. And newly appointed construction manager Paul Brettle is overseeing those site gangs, and Paul's pulling everything together at all the sites to move things on. A few improvements in health and safety I wanted to make you aware of. We have told the health and safety executive that we have construction sites on our canal, and we now have to apply all the regulations that are there to protect our people and the general public, and the health and safety executive expect us to. We've introduced point of work risk assessments which are taking place. We've introduced team briefs where it's a two-way discussion between myself, the construction manager, site leaders and all the volunteers. First thing on the agenda is always health and safety, and it's a talk in the round where we exchange ideas, etc. And finally, we've asked Edmund Gardner, who's with us today, to be our volunteer health and safety representative. And Ed's working on 3 projects currently, checking we're fire safe, our lifting equipment's up to speed, and that we're not using any substances that we shouldn't be using. I think I'll close at that, Carol, if that's okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Can I ask members present if they accept Chris's report? Show of hands. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I want to introduce you to Philip Skelton, who's our Green Team Leader, and he's very kindly stepped in to do the Environment Report. Over to you, Philip.
Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just remind you of the areas that the Green and Ground team cover. That's Darnford Moors Ecology Park, Darnford Park, the Heritage Trail from the Tamworth Road to Cricket Lane, Tamworth Road from Cricket Lane to Fishface. I've missed a few here. The fields along the Falkland Road, the big one and the even bigger one. The Fossway Heath from Falkland Road all the way up to Wallis Cottage. The stretch in Muckley Corner, which we're responsible for, which is about 3/4 of a mile. And Summerhill from the boat all the way down to the M6 toll. The team comprises of a few regular adult members, plus people who come when they can, and we welcome them. Duke of Edinburgh volunteers, that's lads and the occasional girl aged 12 to 18 who come on a Saturday morning. The occasional scout and guide group, and we also entertain the Queenscroft Special School from time to time to do bits. And of course we have the corporates who cover us during the summer. During the year we planted 38 trees, 420 hedging whips, Some of those were planted out along the various sites, and a number were planted in a nursery alongside the canal in our compound. That concept we've extended into 25, where I've got 400 other whips we were delivered, and in general, all of them are blooming and looking really healthy. So bless them, eh? We cleared over 4,000 square metres of brambles and gorse, and the gorse is the real killer. That's what we do in December and January up at the Fossway and Summer Hill. Really hard, nasty work. The kids get really stuck in. The Green and Grounds completed 2,266 volunteer hours. And the corporates, where have we got the corporates? I missed them. That one.
Hang on, it's because that's there. Hang on a second.
Technology, eh?
There we go.
Right, the corporates. These are firms that come down for normally 1 day at a time. We've had 239 representatives from 13 different employers in 2024, and that includes such organisations as Wesleyan Assurance, who are big supporters, Jaguar Land Rover, who send about 3 or 4 teams a year, Pets at Home, send about 3 teams, M6 Toll, National Rail and others. Total 1,927 hours put in. I'd like to just give some special thanks to all the volunteers who have come out on the Green and Grounds in all weathers. Some of it's been quite nasty, either excessive rain or frost or excessive heat in the summer. And I'd also like to give thanks, although she isn't in the best of health, to Chris Bull for all the guidance and advice she's given me, especially last year, and also to Leon Southern, who's also given me some advice. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philip. Can I ask, are you happy to accept Philip's report? Great, thank you very much. I'd now like to introduce you to Derek Lord, our Planning and Technical Trustee, for his report.
Okay, evening everybody. Let's see if I can make this work, hopefully. Yes, there we go. Okay, so I'd like to start off by saying that this last year has been a positive improvement on years that have gone before. Things are going in the right direction, things are speeding up, and that is really good news for everybody. Going into some detail, I'd like to talk about stakeholder relationships because those are really important to us. And the first is that we need to work with and have positive support from the relevant local authorities. That's Lhcrt District Council, it's Cannock Chase Council, it's South Staffs Council, but it's also the County Council as well. They all help and support us in different ways. The relationship with Lhcrt District Council, as some of you will be aware, had taken a nosedive because of some unfortunate decisions that were made by certain officers, but we've got beyond that now, and we now have positive working relationships with a number of key officers. We have regular coordination meetings with them, we can talk to them on the phone, we can get their advice, and that's really good. Cannock Chase and South Staffs, this is to do with the Haverton. So we are not doing physical work on the Haverton, and our overall strategy requires us to protect the line of the Haverton Canal so that at a future stage we can come back to it and get stuck in. So we respond to planning applications that affect the line, we work with them on their local plans as they develop and so on, and we do that in conjunction with Phil on behalf of IWA. So those relationships are really quite good. I'd also like to focus on Persimmon and County Council Amy, because as you can see in the screenshot there, this is, I forgot his name now, but
Dan Hassel.
Dan Hassel, that's it, you got it. He's a senior person at Persimmon, and this is a handover ceremony whereby they have handed over to us the land that will form the St John's section of the canal. Persimmon are also funding the culvert at Cricket Lane that's going to be built later this year, and that's under an agreement with Lhcrt District Council, and they've got the County Council who've designed it in liaison with us and will be building it. So you'll see lots of action there towards the back end of the year. The last stakeholders are HS2 BBV. We've managed to re-engage with HS2 this year. There was a problem where some of their people disappeared and we couldn't find their replacements, but we're through that now. We've had a number of good meetings with them. We're working together on agreeing the precise details of the canal diversion that they're putting in at Cappers Lane, and BBV have also been helping us by producing the design drawings for the culverts that we need to put in at Darnford Lane in future. So that's all really good stuff. On planning then, as you know, we did get the planning consent for Tamworth Road last year. That's from London Road through to Old Lock 24. That was conditional, and that means that there are conditions to it that need to be discharged. We're almost there with the discharge of conditions. There's only one that we know was unresolved, and that is unfortunately because, as far as we understand it, the County Council have yet to respond on the construction management plan, and that's to do with the access crossings that need to be put in and so on. But we are almost there, and because we are almost there, although technically we shouldn't have started work, the council, Lhcrt District Council, have been okay about that, so we have actually made a start. Moving on from that, we've been working on the planning applications for the St John's section from London Road up to Birmingham Road and the Falkland Road section. We've had proper topographic surveys done, and we've started to engage a consultant to do the detailed drawings and design work with us on St John's. This consultant did the work for Persimmon on St John's, and Persimmon have let them use the drawings that they'd paid for to work up to help us with ours as well. So again, that's all good news. We do have still an impasse at Falkland Road in terms of the developer, Taylor Wimpey. Taylor Wimpey have not discharged their planning conditions, and they've tried to force through drainage that doesn't work and would adversely affect the canal. This has been a long battle. It's been going on and on, but we do have the County Council Lead Local Flood Authority who are in agreement with us, and Lhcrt District Council are now positively arguing on our behalf, and Lhcrt District Council are determined to get it resolved, and hopefully this year we may finally get there. The last thing I wanted to focus on, specific community infrastructure levy. This is a levy that is set by Lhcrt District Council, and so if you have a development, development causes demand for infrastructure, and so in order to pay for that infrastructure, there's a levy charged. That money goes into a pot, and then the council allocates it out to suitable projects that are for the benefit of Lhcrt and provide the infrastructure that's needed. And this year we've been told that we've got 200k from them towards the cost of phase 2 on Tamworth Road, which is from London Road to Fishface. So that's really good news, and it shows that the council is now much more supportive of us. And I believe that's it.
Thank you very much, Derek. Can I ask members to accept Derek's report? Lovely, thank you very much. And now I'm going to hand over to Christine Howes, our Comms and Marketing Trustee and Membership Secretary.
Hello everyone, and hello everyone online. Have we got many people online?
30.
Oh, okay. Oh, well. So I'm going to give you a quick whiz through membership and marketing and comms. Starting off with membership, I'll start with a down. We were down on membership numbers at the end of last year, which was a bit sad, but the reason for that was a lot of our long-standing family members suddenly realised their kids had left home and they downgraded to retired members. So if you think about the family membership is 4 people, you lose 2 kids, it's 2 people. So you'll see on the chart that family numbers were down, but retired is up. However, spoilers, Carol did mention earlier on, we are up again now, and next year you'll see it up even more. So it's interesting that this chart is very similar to the one I showed you last year, if you were here last year. Our membership is spread across the world, but mainly in the Midlands, which is unsurprising, so 68% in the Midlands. But we still have this 2% overseas. And the top one of those is USA. We've got 30 members in the USA at the moment, which kind of brings me on nicely to social media. Because social media is really important to us. It's such a good way and an easy way to spread the word about what we do. And a lot of those members that are coming from international, from overseas, are finding us on YouTube and Facebook and all sorts of places. So social media is really important. And we did really well last year. Our followers are now 21,500, almost 21,500. It's gone up since then, because 6 months ago. So we gained 3,500, mainly through Facebook. Facebook's our most popular platform, but YouTube is also a popular one. And a new kid on the block, Blue Sky. If you'd like social media, I recommend Blue Sky. Get on to Blue Sky. So it's not just important to raise awareness. We do get a lot coming back from social media as well. So if you think about the big Give Appeal, which was this year, a lot of the donations that we had coming through were coming via Facebook because they knew about it on Facebook and other social media. So it's really, really important. It's not just what you did for dinner and watching kittens and things. It is vital for us. Equally important is our website. If you think about social media as our kind of coffee house, our website is our shop window. So we've got all the ways to come and join us there. So we've got our membership form, our volunteer form, all the donation links. And last year we had 100,000 views of our website, which was lovely. So even if you're not on social media, if you're not in social media, I would recommend popping onto our website every now and then just to see what's going on. So, 100,000 views, and I think from memory that was about 20,000 people that were visiting it last year. The other way that we do market ourselves is through events, and I want to give a big shout out to our events team. They're not all here, but particularly the ones here today, and we've been here since 2:30, so thanks everyone. We have our own events, which are things like the Brown Hills Canal Festival, our quiz, autumn show, and Eric's Coffee Morning, obviously is a good one. And we also attend other people's events, so like Braunston Rally, volunteer fairs, and they're all really important to us. So we went to 18 events, some of them are ours and some of them are others, and we want to do more, but we need more people to join us. So come and join us if you can, or tell people to come and join us. It's not just about digging and wearing a hard hat. And that's it. Quick whiz through.
Thank you very much, Christine. Can I ask if people are content to accept Christine's report? Excellent, thank you very much. So we're now going to move on to Bob Williams, who's our Finance and Funding Trustee. Bob.
Thank you, Carol. It's my spot. And I think, apart from Eric, our founder, I have probably attended nearly every one of the 35 years of AGMs we've had. But I think, Eric, you beat me to it by a couple of those. So it's nice to see so many friends here yet again. Finance. Well, can I draw your attention to the wonderful annual report, which you have all got as you collected as you came in, and I'll draw your attention to page 14. Page 14, headed up Finance, Income and Expenditure. Now, take your eye down to the bottom of page 14.
We've got to give them a test on that.
I'll give you a test. Christine wants me to give you a test. I'm going to go through these figures line by line. Well, maybe not. The accountants have done those for us. But work from the bottom up, you'll find that what was a deficit last year, because we spent so much money at Darnford Moors Ecology Park, to good effect, of course, it has now come around to a surplus of £78,000. So that's very handy to have that sort of result. You'll be able to study these figures at your leisure, a bit of bedtime reading on the income and expenditure and the balance sheet. So what is interesting, of course, that those aren't just my numbers. They have been proven by Danes, the accountants in Lichfield. They produce this huge 45-page report which satisfies the Charity Commission. So we start off with an A4 sheet and it becomes 45 pages at quite a cost, of course, but it has to be done for charity purposes. Now, focusing, turn your pages back a bit, go back to page 12. Take a look at the pie chart there. Thank you, Christine. The pie chart there, which Christine has compiled very effectively. You'll notice that it's quite clear that two of the largest sectors there, legacies, the yellow section there, and the dark blue, the appeals, two key elements in our income streams. Absolutely vital. We were very fortunate in 2024 that we had some outstanding legacies. It's sad that this should be so, but it is wonderful that people do remember us when they have gone. Now, with your magic, you're able to...
I've done it for you.
No, there you go. Oh, there you are. You're ahead of me. I don't understand technology. I don't understand numbers either, for that matter. They just come and they go. But if you wipe out those two major sectors, you'll find that they overshadow all the rest. On the following page, 13, look at the expenditure. And the half moon there in dark blue on the right-hand side is the restoration cost, £71,000, and small amounts coming through on the left-hand sectors, plant and tools, our tenanted cottages. So it's interesting to see, particularly, that about a third of the income is from appeals and legacies, and half is spent on restoration. Just looking at big slices like that. Summing it up, 2024 was an excellent year in many ways, but I can tell you that 2025 is going to be excellenter. Not only has Derek explained the CIL grant that's in view now for the work on Phase 2 on Tamworth Road, £200,000 is due to come our way, and they tell me they're going to pay it in advance, at least in stages. Never been known before. It's got to happen yet. We've also submitted an application for the next section to that for about £300,000. Then there's Lot 24 to be built, the Big Give campaign that's been going through since May. But this is all this year's business. So in about 2 years' time, I think we can point to accounts saying we've spent £1 million at Tamworth Road to get it into water. But back to today, it isn't all there yet. The pictures in the new display on the table there, when you take your break, have a good look. It takes us through phases 1, 2, 3 and 4 with some prize pictures of what's going on there. Many of you here are actually involved closely with that. So thank you all for spending the money wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Can I have somebody to propose that, please?
Yeah, I'll propose the accept the report.
Thank you, Christine. Anybody to second? Thank you. All those in favour of accepting the finance report? Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to Colin Booker for this next item.
For those of you who are interested, our constitution can be found on Companies House. It's a very detailed document, but it does require us periodically to have re-elections for certain of the members of the board here. And this year, there are two people up for re-election. and that is Carol and Bob. I'm presuming that both of them are willing to carry on and be re-elected. Would I be correct in that? Bob, you too? In which case, I would propose that Bob and Carol are re-elected to their current positions. Can we have a vote on that? That's fairly unanimous, I think. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That means I need to go back a slide, because we did say farewell and huge thanks to 2 trustees that stepped down during 2024. And one is Chris Ball, our Environment Trustee and former Chair, and also did all kinds of things behind the scenes. Unfortunately, Chris isn't very well this evening, so she's not been able to join us.
She should be watching online.
But hopefully she's watching online, and I hope you are, Chris. You've been an absolute stalwart. And for Ivor Kaplan as well, who was our IWA rep, who unfortunately had to step down as well. So thank you very much to both of them for everything they did for the Trust. Great colleagues. And we do have a couple of vacancies at the moment. So if you are at a loose end, or you know somebody who's at a loose end, we have vacancies for our Environment Trustee, our Volunteer Resources Trustee, and somebody from the IWA. So please do ask around if it's not for you, and they'll get a very warm welcome to our fabulous team. So we don't have any current appointees for this year, so that's not going to take us any time at all. But we're now on item 7, which is the appointment of the accounts examiner. Now, Danes LLP have been our accounts examiner for 18 years now, and it's proposed that they're reappointed for 2025. So could I have somebody to propose and second that, please?
I propose that Danes be appointed.
Okay. Thank you. And somebody to second it?
And I second that.
Thank you. All those in favour of reappointing Danes? Thank you very much. So we're now on item 9, which is any other business. Are there any items of any other business? Colleagues? No? Anybody indicated online, Paul? No. Okay. So there's no any other business, which is very good. Are there any questions arising from any presentation? Gentleman there.
Can we just ask you to use the mic? Our roving mic will come to you.
Just so that everybody can hear. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you very much. Yes?
Is there any more progress or news about the big give that we contributed to this year?
Oh, yes, big give. Would you like to say something, Christine?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was in the latest edition of Cut Both Ways. There is a copy there. So we didn't quite achieve the target, so we didn't get all the champion funding, but all the pledges are in, and the money should be coming to us shortly, because it takes a long time to kind of get through the due diligence. So now you're going to test me. The top, was it 157,000? Yes, yeah, so 157,000 that we raised. But yeah, Cut Both Ways is at the back there, so I can verify that amount for you. But thank you to everyone who pledged and donated. It is a complicated system. I think I'm the only person in the world who understands how it works. So any questions, see me at the coffee break. And I can give you, I'll bore you to tears with it. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone who took part in that and donated.
And thank you to you, Christine, for all the work that makes it happen.
So the next stage of that is the designs for the lock, and so that there's, I don't know if Derek wants to say any more about that, but yeah, so slow process, but we've got the money now so that we can get the designs and then crack on with it, yeah.
That's great. Are there any other questions? Gentleman here.
It's not a question, it's more, I'm Councillor Richard Cox, Cabinet Member for Community Engagement. And it really is an acknowledgement and a thank you to all the volunteers. This is Volunteers Week, and we're in a room here of 100%, I think, of volunteers. And I think it would be remiss of me not to thank you all for volunteering in our district. Volunteering is one of the most vibrant and exciting things that we have in the Lichfield district that makes it a great place. So on behalf of the council, thank you very much.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you. Any final... Gentleman here. The microphone is coming to you.
Colin Greatrex, County Council. I'll echo what Richard Cox has just said in terms of the welcoming of the volunteer effort. On the retirements, Carol, you mentioned the retirement of Chris Bull, also Peter Buck. I worked with both Chris and...
Yeah, we celebrated his retirement last year for
Oh,
him.
right,
We
okay.
did a big presentation and made a huge fuss of him.
Right, okay.
So that's why he hasn't got a mention
Well,
this time.
just to echo what Derek has said as well, in terms of the relationship that you have with the County Council, I'll do whatever I can. I happen to be here as a member, but I will do what I can from the County Council point of view, and I know the people of the district as well. So 5 out of the 6 projects for last year were in my division in the county, so very strongly involved with most of the work that's going on, and I'll continue to help out where I can.
Thank you. I mean, that's really kind of you. Thank you. And we are very grateful to all of our stakeholders that give us so much support in quite challenging times. Lady here, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm a retired county councillor until a couple of weeks ago when we had our election, but for the last 20 years I've been the county councillor and the Lichfield district councillor for Bowley Park. So I've been at the beginning of this long canal, long story. So I was pleased to see that you have put the county council up on the list, because we have community money at the county council. I stand corrected, we did have. It doesn't exist at the moment, but we don't know where we are at the moment, but there we are. The thing is, we have had a lot of interest at the county in the canal, as many of you know. I've been in my welly boots many times walking up and down the canal to see your progress and what you've done. And I'd like to echo what my 2 colleagues have said. Thank you so very much for what you volunteer and what you do. It's wonderful effort that you put in, and the dedication is absolutely fabulous. Keep up the good work, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very kind. Very kind. I have to say, it really gets under your skin. We love it. It's just, yeah, once you get involved with the canal, you just want to do more and more. So, yeah, we're very lucky to have some fantastic people who spend so much time.
Carol only started to do the reading.
Yeah, I only came to do weeding, and now I'm standing here at an AGM, so there you go. But that's not compulsory, so don't let that put you off if you're thinking of volunteering. So thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much for your participation and attendance, and thanks to everybody online. We are now going to have a 15-minute break, so please do have a cup of tea, coffee and a biscuit or 2. Also, please do visit our shop at the back, and please can we be back in our seats just after 8:15 for our really interesting talk from Jono. So see you in 15 minutes, please. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for returning to your seats. Much appreciated. I'm now really pleased to introduce Jono Oates, who's got an interesting talk for us entitled Victorian Lichfield. Over to you.
Thank you all very much, and thank you for the introduction from Carol. Yeah, my name is Jono. I'm a tour guide, historian in Lichfield, author of the book The A to Z of Lichfield, History of Lichfield by the Letters of the Alphabet. I wear this costume quite a lot. It's a vintage Edwardian frock coat, 1906. It's not doing badly, is it? So I wear it quite a lot. It does help you if you're a tour guide to be recognised as that, but it does have its drawbacks. So a couple of weeks ago, I'd done a talk in Lichfield City, and I was walking back home, and I was going on Upper St John Street, just by the railway bridge where Danes Accountants is. And on the other side of the road to me was a group of 10 to 12, what I would call youth. So 14 to 15, and they clocked me. And so one of the lads, he shouted out, and he went, "Oi, mate!" So I ignored him, and he went, "Oi, mate!" And you don't catch their eye, you don't engage with them, and I just carried on. And he turned around and he went, "Oh, you, Willy Wonka." Well, I think he said Wonka. I dress up often as Victorian Jono, and the talk that I'm going to do this evening is about Victorian Lichfield. Now, in December this year, for the first time, they're having a Christmas festival, Christmas event, and it's based on Victorian times, so Dickensian. It's going to be in the first week of December for 4 days. And when I've been talking to people about this, they said, well, Jono, Lichfield isn't a Victorian city. Hopefully I'll prove you a little bit later that it is. But the reason they say that is they consider Lichfield to be Georgian city, which of course it is, but it's also a medieval city. But the Victorians had a massive impact on the city of Lichfield, as they did across the whole of the country. So during the 18th century, the time of King George I through to King George IV, and then followed on by William IV, Lichfield was at the top of the pops. It was one of the best known, the most well-known cities in the whole of the country. Everyone knew where Lichfield was. It was much more important than its noisy neighbour of Birmingham. Part of the reason for that is Bird Street in Lichfield. It's a main road that runs from one side, from Birmingham, right the way down to London, and on the other side to the county town of Stafford, and then to the northwest, the trading post of Chester, and even more importantly, the port of Liverpool, which is where the ship sailed in Georgian times, going across the Irish Sea and then across to the Americas, to the new land. So that is where Lichfield got its fame from. All these coaches filled with people who had got lots and lots of money. They stopped in Lichfield and spent their money in the hotels, in the pubs, and in the shops and local businesses. So we hit the heights at the time of the Georgian trade, the coaching trade. Now, when the horse and coaches stopped, they were replaced by the next big main measure of transport, and that was the trains. And Lichfield did not engage with the trains, as pretty much every other major town and city across the whole of the country did. In 1839, a travelling salesman, commercial salesman, writes a stinging letter to the Lichfield Mercury. He's been at a meeting at the Guildhall in Lichfield, and he says there are no trains, there is no train line in Lichfield. You cannot get to it. He says he can get all the way around the country, but you cannot get to Lichfield by train. Lichfield City Station, Lichfield Trent Valley Station had not been in place. And he said, the eternal term, you'll hear it mentioned almost every week, he said, if Lichfield is not careful, in 10 years' time, it will become a ghost town. And he was pretty much right. The coaching trade started to decrease quite rapidly. There were no trains. So by Victorian times, Lichfield had become a little bit of a backwater. Its population stayed very steady, and it certainly did not hit the heights of Georgian time period. So a little summary there of Queen Victoria, born 1819, succeeded William IV as monarch, came to the throne in June 1837, married Prince Albert, her beloved Prince Albert. They had 9 children, and she died in 1901, aged 81, and at that stage a 64-year reign, the longest in British monarchy at that time, and they believed at that time it would never be bettered. They hadn't anticipated Queen Elizabeth II. So we talked about the trains and the train system, and eventually we managed to catch on to the rest of the country. And this is the railroad bridge, which I walked under before I was abused by the youth. And this has what the original Lichfield City Bridge looked like when the train line eventually opened in 1849, 10 years after the commercial salesman had criticised us. We see the little chuff-chuff train going across the bridge, and those lovely 2 entrances going from Lower St John Street through to Upper St John Street. And then, further up, and Dane's Accountants is now just where you see underneath the bridge on the right-hand side. And on the outer parts of the 2 main bridge battlements, we see a number of the city seals, the city badges, if you like, dotted around the outside of the railway bridge itself. Those are the only things really that survive today, still in place. I think it's a beautiful looking bridge. I don't think we can probably say that about the Lichfield City Bridge at the moment as you walk through the pigeon poo encrusted passageway. It's not the loveliest and in a poor state of repair. So that's Lichfield City Bridge, originally after the line from 1849. And this is what Lichfield City Station used to look like before the later Victorian build. We can see from its position that it is closer to the St Michael's Church side. It's pretty much where Mr Tyre, Tyre Fitters, is now. And again, we can see people just wandering across the railway line from one side to t'other as the steam train approaches them. I'm sure you may know who this gentleman is, John Robinson Maclean. This is the bust of Maclean, the very well-known Irish engineer, and it's in St Anne's Church in Chasetown. And John Robinson Maclean obviously was the person who put together the first railway line in Lichfield, the South Staffordshire railway line. And it was at that time, and still today, it's the only bit of public railway track that was owned by one individual rather than committees of. John Robinson Maclean, obviously most well known for the Sandfields pumping station, where they pumped fresh, clean water from Stowe Pool up to the contaminated, polluted waters of Warsaw. Now, one of the key events the year after Queen Victoria came to the throne was the installation of the Samuel Johnson statue, opened in August 1838, and it was created by the sculptor Thomas Cockle, and here is the gentleman on the right with the top hat, supervising some amendments to the statue shortly after it had been installed. In the back of that, we see a very impressive tall building with a little atrium at the top, and it was a department store. It's where HSBC Bank, NatWest Bank is now. Now, the statue itself was a gift to the city of Lichfield by one of its key benefactors, and his name is James Thomas Law. He was the Reverend Chancellor of Lichfield Diocese. So this is James Law lounging in his chair. You won't see the detail, but he's reading a copy of the Staffordshire Advertiser, a newspaper which was kind of a rival to the Lichfield Mercury at that time. His father being the Bishop of Bath and Wells, or Bath and Wells, depending on how posh you are, and his grandfather had been the Bishop of Chester. So it was a true vocation for him. So when he was ordained, he moved to Lichfield, where his grandfather had been at Lichfield Cathedral, and he moved to Lichfield, and at the age of just 23, he became the master of St John's Hospital. So St John's Hospital, not a hospital where you would be cured, but a place of hospitality, place of welcome on Lower St John Street, the junction of the Birmingham Road. Known as St John's without the bars, so it was when the city gates were locked shut in medieval times, pilgrims approaching the city could knock on the door of St John's without the bar and be allowed in, so that they had safe harbour before the city gates reopened again the following morning. So the Reverend James Thomas Law provided the statue of Samuel Johnson, Lichfield's greatest son. It cost him anywhere between £800 to £1,000. You can make any kind of estimate that you would like in this current time. I'll say 250,000, but probably more, probably $500,000. And he gave it as a gift. Made a very durable Yorkshire stone, and it has stood the test of time from 1838, a year after Queen Victoria came to the throne. Now, the building I showed you with an atrium, it was home to a Victorian business couple, and you can perhaps see there the name of it. It's Shakeshaft and Playfer. So Edward Shakeshaft, pretty much unknown today, and William Playfer, P-L-A-Y-F-E-R. Playfer is a little well known. If you've been a Lichfieldian for some time, you'll remember Playfer's shoe shop eventually became K Shoes on Market Street in Lichfield. But they ran this very successful business. It was a department store, sold pretty much anything, carpets, curtains, houseware, etc., but also fashions for ladies and gentlemen, including Parisian fashions, which were very much of the mode in late Victorian times. But they ran a secondary business, and we can see it right outside their shop. They were also funeral directors. You're always going to need a funeral director, aren't you? So it was a very, very successful business. You won't be able to see it perhaps, but at the windows there are the faces of the staff in Shakespeare and Playfair looking out at the photographer taking this image. In those days, obviously, a photograph would take a long, long time, and so they would peer out. It was a note of interest for people to see a photographer in action. And I'll show you now expanded view of Shakespeare and Playfair. So this is the Market Square. We've got the Samuel Johnson in the far distance, the statue of Samuel Johnson, and then on the right-hand side, this fantastic department store with the atrium at the top. My understanding is that when you walked up to the top floor, you would then be able to look upwards to this giant skylight. I've not met anyone or know anyone who actually remembers that or remembers doing that. But certainly the building was well known. It became F.W. Long's Drapers men's store. So that is the Market Square. We know that it predates 1908 because although the statue of Samuel Johnson is there, the statue of Thomas Boswell on the other side is not in place. That didn't appear until 1908. Someone who was connected to the railways and was friends and colleagues with John Robinson Maclean, a chap called Richard Green with an E. There were two well-known Richard Greens in Lichfield. One of them was at the time of Samuel Johnson, and he was an antiquarian, created effectively a museum of museum items. And then Richard Green, the second one, was a banker, not necessarily by trade, but he married into a banking firm. He married the daughter of one of the key partners, and when the partner passed away, Richard Green took the place, the secondary partner, to James Palmer. When James Palmer passed away, Richard Green took over control of the bank itself. Became known as Green and Palmer Bank, but also as the Lichfield Bank. In 1855, in December of 1855, the Lichfield Bank went belly up. It crashed in spectacular fashion. New Year's Eve, 1855. The bank supplied many of the organisations throughout Lichfield, including the Conduit Lands Trust. The fall of the bank was spectacular. It's a quite amazing story, but one that you'll have to wait for another occasion. So Jono cliffhanger. Richard Green looked after this bank until it failed in 1855. I can't show you the bank at the time, but I can show you what it later became. So this is further up Market Street, the Midland Bank, which obviously became HSBC Bank, and the banks moved further down. So it's where the New Look dresswear shop is today. I won't show you that because it's an ugly building. And it replaced this fantastic, amazing building, demolished during the 1860s, but totally changed. It's the 1960s when it became the New Look building today. But we can see the little alleyway next to it. That is still there. That's where the Iceland shop is. But that building is pretty much unchanged, apart from the Iceland logos. So that is where Richard Green's bank was. Palmer and Green became the Lichfield Bank, finished in 1855. Another key person for Lichfield is this chap. You probably won't recognise him, but you'll definitely recognise the name because it's Robert Bridgman. So Robert Bridgman and Sons, the noted stonemasons and woodcarvers based on Quonian's Lane, just off Dam Street in Lichfield. And here he is in pensive mode. I think it's a frieze behind him of the Last Supper, looks like to me. So Robert Bridgman was not Lichfieldian. He was brought up in Cambridgeshire, and he got the contract to redevelop, to rework the west front of Lichfield Cathedral, putting up during that process, over 100 statues, which he and his team created in Quonian's Lane. He moved from there to get that contract. Well, you would, wouldn't you? 100 statues on Lichfield Cathedral, all created by his company. And when you look at the census of 1880s, 1819, 1901, what you see on the streets surrounding Quonian's Lane is all these people. They are all stonemasons, and they were all born and raised in Cambridgeshire. So when he arrived in Lichfield from Cambridgeshire, he brought his entire workforce with him and dotted them all around. Bridgman House, right next on the junction of Dam Street and Quonian's Lane, is where Robert Bridgman lived. He literally had to step out a door and go and check on the workmen. And so this, again, it's a later picture, but this shows a group of the workmen, the Robert Bridgman workmen, in Quonian's Lane. And the thing that sort of impresses me is that clearly health and safety was not an issue at this time. If you look at where all the bricks are all lined up, they're teetering, tottering. And if you have a look at the gentleman who's third back with his cloth cap on, he's swinging his hammer. The photograph is obscured because obviously the camera cannot catch it. And he's smashing it down onto his implement to do the carving. And he's looking at the cameraman. So I would imagine 5 seconds later, he has smashed his hand to pieces. But he won't have done, will he? Because he will have struck that so many times. He knows exactly where the top of that implement is. He doesn't have to look directly at it. Just a fantastic image of the workmen at Robert Bridgman and Sons. Now, when they worked, obviously, lots and lots of stone chippings everywhere. They would have definitely been thirsty. And they would have helped themselves to ale after they finished their shift in one of many, many Lichfield pubs in Victorian Lichfield. We think there are a lot of pubs now, but there were lots more then. At one stage, there was one pub for every 60 people in Lichfield for population. You would walk along a lot of the streets and you could do a pub crawl on one street. Stowe Street, the original Stowe Street, had up to 7 pubs along that one stretch. You would literally fall from one to another. The beer was very cheap, and there were lots of them. And obviously, when you had finished your shift, you would go out and drink yourself silly. So there were 3 main breweries in Lichfield: Lichfield Brewery Company, Lichfield City Brewery, and the Lichfield Trent Valley Brewery. So 3 major breweries pumping out thousands of barrels of ale across the whole of the country. We cannot say that Lichfield challenged Burton-upon-Trent as being the major centre of, but it was very, very significant. And of course, we shared the water. Water is key in the brewery process. We shared the water of the Trent Valley along with Burton-upon-Trent, so it just all made sense. Now, this was not so much a brewery, but a bottling plant. It's John Sims of the Victoria Works on Church Street in Lichfield. They also had a factory in Cannock, and it's on Church Street. It is where now the Westgate medical practice is, opposite Oldie. And it's incredible to think that those buildings were there. It's a fairly small little plot, but a few, large buildings doing all this bottling. And John Sims mainly did what they called aerated water, so fizzy pop to us. They bottled lots of it. And they were also, as we can see there, they were distributors for people like Guinness. So Guinness would have would bring the barrels over, and they would be bottled by John Sims and then distributed out. John Sims, you can find lots and lots of bottles, glass bottles, made by John Sims. And I think it's Gallows Reach, is it? Gallows Wharf, thank you, where they've inlaid some of these bottles for John Sims and other providers into it. Pretty much if you go into any of the fields around Lichfield and those surrounding the canals, you can find, just dig down, you'll find these bottles. They were very, very tough, strong bottles, the way they filled them with pressure, and so they tended not to break, as opposed to today's glass bottles. So I've got quite a few of each of those main breweries. There we go. So this was the Lichfield Brewery Company, and so the railway line we see is going out in the direction of Shenstone. Right at the top, you've got Ivanhoe Road, the Birmingham Road travelling to the other side, and then in between the Lichfield Brewery Company and Ivanhoe Road, you've got a lovely empty field, which is now housing development. On the Birmingham Road, on the right-hand side, you can see some lovely allotments, which are now housing. And if you look further up by Friary View, you can see some nice empty field spaces, which is now housing. But we talked about Wiltell and Danes, so you can see where Wiltow Road was, which led into that green space. And that Wiltell Road associated with the Wiltell Works. So the Wiltell Works was the Birmingham Chemical Company, but it was known as Wiltell Works, or the Wiltell, allegedly because the slogan for the Birmingham Chemical Company was "Quality will tell," and so they joined those together. And you can still see the sign Wiltell Works on there. Right at the bottom left of the photograph, you can see Davidson House. In splendid fashion there, trees outside, a lovely canopy which has been ripped off, and I don't know where that is now. Davidson House used to be home to the Staffordshire Regiment Museum at one time, and it's now an abandoned building, hoarded, boarded up, in a very poor state of repair. Lichfield District Council now has powers to try and move those properties on, so forcing the landlord to either do something with it or to sell it on. So I'm really, really hoping, it's a lovely, gorgeous building, that at one stage it will be restored to somewhere near its best. This is one of the Victorian pubs served by the Lichfield Brewery Company, and the building on the left is the Malt Shovel Pub, Malt Shovel Hotel. The building today, it is the Fat Face store, and it has horrible, truly horrid, false Tudor black and white covering on it. I'm going to get up a ladder one day with my claw hammer, and I'm going to peel it all off, because look at those gorgeous windows on that first floor. So it is a shame, and you can see the entrance where the horse and cart would go through to the left of the pub, out to the back, where again there would have been fields. It's now where the Uber drivers line up to take the McDonald's takeaways away. And then to the right of that, it's Hall's Butchers, so a multi-generational family butchers. Henry Hall, his granddaughter Louise Hall, she has got the ladies' dress shop on Dam Street. His name escapes me at the moment. But it was a butcher's for several generations. It's now the Superdrug store. But if you go and look at the front of the Superdrug store, you will see the two bull's heads on either side. They are there on that photograph from the end of the 19th century. And I often point it out to people, and they're stunned and amazed, because they go into Superdrug every single day and they've never spotted these bull's heads. And they look at me as though I've just put them up there, just sort of glued them into place. But I haven't, honestly. So it's a typical pub, one of the many across Lichfield. One of the greatest buildings built right in the heart of Victorian times. And it's the Lichfield Free Library and Museum. So opened up in 1859. And the land that it used to be on belonged to the Reverend James Hall, Reverend James Thomas Law, the man who had gifted the statue of Samuel Johnson. So he owned that land, and he transferred it across to Lichfield City Council so that the building could be built, and he asked for £25. Now, £25 in the 1850s was quite a lot of money, But if you look at that site now as real estate, in the shadows of Lichfield Cathedral, Minster Pool on one side, stone's throw from the cathedral, that was a bargain. So they're allowed to build the Free Library Museum. It was only the second free library in the whole of the country, after Sale in Manchester. Norwich claimed to be the second free library, but I tell you, it's Lichfield, trust me. So it was a free library, and prior to that, you had to pay. Although the free library, it was an act of law from 1850. Although free library was a fantastic thing, it meant that anyone could go in and read journals and read books. It was highly resented by working class people who had no interest at all in going to read a book. Some of them could not read and had no interest. But because it was a public building, it had to be paid for by the council tax of the day. And Lichfield City Council increased their council tax by 1 old penny a year. If they do that today, but in the 1850s, that would mean the difference between you putting bread on the table for your family or not. So working class people hated it. They just said the posh people can now get into the library for free, and we're paying for that privilege. But it was a fantastic thing by the Reverend James Thomas Law to do that. When the library opened, it needed to have a stock of books, obviously. It needed to have heating and lighting and a librarian. And so the great and good of Lichfield made donations. Lots of people put in £5, £10. The Reverend James Thomas Law put in £25, the money he had received for the land. So he wiped his face clean. He made zero profit. I would say the Reverend James Thomas Law was a good egg. He also gave a gift to Lichfield in the same year of the fountain that stands in the middle of the museum gardens. And if you get up close to it, you can see the inscription that runs around saying that he provided the fountain and that it opened in 1859, the same year that the museum gardens themselves opened up and the Free Library and Museum. And the Reverend James Thomas Law led a congregation singing hymns going round and round the fountain. How are we doing for time? Are we still okay? Yeah? Thank you. A building that sprung up along with churches, along with religious buildings, another building that sprung up all around the country in Victorian times, late Victorian times, was the workhouse. And this was primarily due to industrialisation. Lots and lots of men, manual handling, were put out of jobs and had no money, no state benefits, no state system, and so incredibly poor. So there were 3 workhouses in Lichfield associated with each of the churches in the city centre. And this one you may well recognise. So it was the Union Workhouse. It's on Trent Valley Road, and today it's the Samuel Johnson Community Hospital. And we can still see, the splendid entrance to it, which looks like you're going into a castle, doesn't it, or some kind of fortified area. And we can see the bell tower still there today. Parts of the other buildings have been demolished. If you got into the Union Workhouse, you were incredibly lucky if you had nothing, because at least you could find a room, a bed of sorts, and you were fed 3 times a day. And they had a doctor who would come and look after you, which was fund paid for, and you could not afford to go and see a doctor if you were poor in those days. No NHS system. So the workhouse itself was designed by an architect. He was young at this time, and this is Sir George Gilbert Scott as he became. And as a junior architect, he put in a bid for the Union Workhouse. He won it against some very other well-known local architects. Said that he designed the Church, St John's Church at Wall, although I've spoken to several people lately who said, no, it wasn't him, but he appears in the records as being the architect of that. But the most famous work that he was responsible for in Lichfield is, of course, the west front of Lichfield Cathedral, which he designed and created. The west front was developed after criticism from Her Majesty herself, Queen Victoria. So when she visited in 1840, the original statues that were at the front, medieval statues, had started to crumble. They were falling away. You were in danger of being struck from above by a statue. So what they had done, they covered the whole west front of the cathedral with Romanesque cement just to keep the original statues in place. So it looked horrendously ugly. They whitewashed the inside of the cathedral walls. So when Queen Victoria visited, well, she was not amused, and she criticised the cathedral, therefore prompting them to do something. So they recruited Sir George Gilbert Scott, who by that time was very famous, very well known, and he redesigned the whole West Front using over 100 statues, the vast majority of which created by Robert Bridgman and Sons on Quonians Lane. It took so long that Sir George Gilbert Scott died before the project was completed in the 1880s, and one of his sons took over supervision of it. Of course, being made at the time of Queen Victoria, there has to be a statue of Queen Victoria herself. You can see her, she's the one at the top, you can see her rounded features there. That, in actual fact, was sculpted by one of her daughters, Princess Louise, clearly a very good artist within her own right. So finally, Queen Victoria saw a return to the greatness of the West Front of Lichfield Cathedral. Ladies and gents, I hope that you've enjoyed my little walk through Victorian Lichfield, and we can see from there's some key buildings there, some key benefactors of Lichfield. Without Reverend James Thomas Law, no statue of Samuel Johnson on the Market Square, no library and museum. Today, Lichfield Registry Office, the most successful, most popular registry office in the whole of Staffordshire. Ladies and gents, I hope you've enjoyed my Victorian Lichfield. Thank you.
Very much for a really interesting talk. That was great. Any questions for Jono? We've got a few minutes where we can take a few questions if anybody's got any.
Oh.
Yes.
Why is Quonians so called?
Why is what?
Quonians.
But unfortunately, I cannot tell you because it's a Latin word which I would not want to repeat in front of mixed company. So it's alleged. There are several versions. I've spoken to various Quonians, but it is where, how can I put this, the ladies of the night used to go, allegedly. Thank you.
Controversial question then, Bob. Thank you for that. Any other questions? We've got time for one or two if there are. No? Well, if not, can I say thank you very much once again, and can we thank Jono in the usual way?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carol.
So, everybody, that's the end of proceedings this evening. Thank you very much for joining this evening and for all your support throughout the years. Very much appreciated, and safe journey home. Thank you.